Okay, should we get started? Bismillah, Bismillah walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barak wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So we're going to pick up where we stopped last time. For those who weren't here, the first week's session we did a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I was traveling this past week. We're going to do tonight and Wednesday in person and online. And then this Friday, I'm going to be going out of the country to Uganda. We're taking people from our community to do some relief work with people in Sudan. Make special dua. Allah grants us barakah and tawfiq in this. Maybe I'll have to travel again after this for a long time. It'd be nice to not leave New York again soon. And then that week after, we'll kind of do a few more, starting from that week, the week of the 11th, till we get through these 11 verses, inshallah, in their entirety. So just a quick recap. Last week, or the first time that we had met, we had started by looking at a hadith that spoke about the merits of gathering together to recite and learn Quran together, essentially. People remember the hadith that we looked at. We talked about it as a framing as to what was bringing us together here intentionally. Look at these verses of Surah Al-Mu'minoon. We spoke about some of the context in which the verses were revealed as a Meccan chapter, meaning that the Meccan surahs revealed before the Hijrah to Medina, in large part, were seeking to cultivate within the reader of the Quran an understanding of Tawheed, like Allah's oneness, Akhirah, that we have a hereafter and afterlife, and then a sense of ethics and character. Right, the Quran is trying to produce a certain type of human being. May Allah make us from amongst those who look the way the Quran teaches us to actually be, and to embody a character that's Quranic. And so these Meccan verses are largely looking at these three themes when they're engaged. And Surah Al-Mu'minoon being a chapter that is reflective of that Meccan reality, that's in large part what it is that we're finding in this. In these particular verses that we're looking at, the Prophet ﷺ shares great merit that comes from the embodiment of the characteristics of the believers that are outlined in these particular verses. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha has asked about the Prophet ﷺ's character, and she says that he embodies the Quran personified. And in one narration, she adds that these verses are who it was that he was. Today, we're going to just jump right into the first verse of the surah, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. In the WhatsApp group, I shared two documents. One is just kind of a generic outline and structure of what we're going to go through today. And the second is a document that between this week and next week, when I'm back, or even between today and Wednesday, if you have time, you kind of sit with some of what we're discussing, and individually you kind of engage in reflection on the verse. The whole idea for us is to take Quran and actually live by it. We don't want to just read it or recite it, and it's not that there's not goodness in those things, but you want to actually take what it offers and then try to implement and actualize on it. And if you remember last week, we talked briefly about the difference between tafsir and tadabbur. And so what I've done in that second document is place some reflection questions that as we go through today's session, You'll be able to kind of see how that fits in to your own kind of personal mode of contemplation and reflection. Nobody else has to see it. You just engage it and you revisit it. The advantage of kind of writing things down also in reflection is that it allows for us to have something authentic to come back to. Like if I remember me at this moment a year from now, the me that is remembering me in this moment a year from now is who I am a year from now. It's not that I'm necessarily being dishonest, but if I have something that is solidified enshrined in some written document, it lets me actually have a deeper glimpse as to who I was at the moment that I wrote that thing. And my remembrance of it enables me to have a little bit more actuality as opposed to 365 days of experience between now and a year from now that then shape how I understand and look back at a moment just by virtue of thinking about it rather than engaging something that had a little bit more concreteness to it. Does that make sense? We'll go through that document before Maghrib just so people can kind of get a better understanding, because reflection is not done in a vacuum, it's upon something. If I told you to take 5 minutes and go and reflect, most of you might not do it, not because you're opposed to it, it's just you might not know how to do it, right? And having a structure that enables there to be some steps practically to say, okay, well, I'm starting somewhere, and then we move from there. The first document, people want to pull that up. If you're not in the WhatsApp group, you can go to the persons sitting around you. They should be able to share a QR code with you that lets you log on to, or lets you join the WhatsApp group itself. Okay, Bismillah. So what we're going to first look at is the first verse, and that's what we're going to spend a lot of time on today. Likely that's all we're going to look at today. And then this Wednesday, 2 nights from now, we'll probably look at the next 2 verses and the first 2 characteristics that the chapter is outlining that identify who are the believers that have succeeded. But the one we're going to begin with is going to be قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, that indeed the believers have succeeded. When Allah is making this statement, it's in fact a statement, and embedded within it is what we understand to be divine promise. So a declaratory statement coming from the divine is not something that has any room for doubt to it. When you translate this, and one of the things that I'm going to ask you to reflect on in that document a day from now, a week from now, is to write your own translation out. So you're building a relationship with it, even if it's not verbatim word for word, but you're reflecting on like, well, what does the verse mean to me? How do I extrapolate meaning from the verse itself? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, the way that this is structured in the Arabic is a little bit different grammatically than we might assume a sentence to be structured. We'll break down every word, but first I want us to just have a base of translation that we're working with. So there's a common understanding with all of us who are here in person or online. So qad is just saying like definitely, definitively, indeed. Aflaha is a verb that means have succeeded in the past. And al-mu'minoon is definitively categorizing a particular group of people who are qualitatively understood through their Iman, the mu'minoon, the believers. Allah make us from amongst them. So the verse translated is saying, indeed have succeeded the believers. Does that make sense? When you engage in the translation or you hear the Arabic, it's not that nuance gets lost, but meaning to it is going to be extrapolated from how we relate to language. There's a reason why the Quran is a recited text, and the miraculous nature of it is so substantial that the way Allah has majesty over all of creation, There's nothing comparable to the divine. Allah's word and Allah's book is also the most remarkable and majestic words. And in order for us to spend time with text, you got to carve out time first and then really take the time to say, what brings me to understanding why this is important for me, so that I'm not just engaging the translation without using my critical faculties that makes me distinct as a human from the rest of creation, so I can think deeply about it. Qad, in and of itself, is used to demonstrate emphasis. But emphasis is not a word that we use often when we're talking to one another, right? Like if I'm angry with you, I don't say, Raheem, I'm so emphatically angry with you. It's not a word you use in common jargon. Do you know? The emphasis on something can be demonstrated through non-verbalized aspects of communication, the way that I can express through my tone, my tenor, my body language. You know, you can tell if somebody's really interested in the conversation or not based off of just how they hold themselves. Here, linguistically, when somebody tells you qad means a word like indeed, or it means something like verily, you don't use these words when you talk every day, right? Right? Does anybody? No, you don't. If you do, that's strange. Like people don't talk like that in New York City. God, it is giving us a opportunity to understand the importance of what's going to happen. But when we say it's definitive or concrete, we're saying that there's no probabilistic nature to it, that something else is also possible. Do you see? So in Arabic, you have the word lamma, which denotes that there's a possibility to something. And qad is different from that, because qad is saying there's nothing else it can be other than this thing. When we stand to pray Maghrib, inshallah, whoever calls the iqamah, they're going to say qad qamat as-salah, right? Qad qamat as-salah in Arabic means what? That we're about to pray. Like that's what it means. The adhan calls the people to prayer. The iqamah says the prayer is happening. When you put qad in front of that statement, qad qamat as-salah, that we're standing for prayer, what it's saying to the person hearing qad qamat as-salah is, why are you anywhere other than where we are right now? You see? The adhan is calling you to prayer. Drop your stuff. Don't be doing what you're doing. Close up the shops. Stop eating the food. It's time for dhuhr. Meeting is done. Phone call gets turned off. Nothing left to scroll. You got to walk to where the prayer is being established. And when the iqamah comes, the qad comes in to be able to tell you how important this thing is, that you shouldn't be anywhere else right now. This is all where you should be. The prayer has started. Make sense? And the concrete nature of it is to be able to emphasize to you, if you got what this meant, you wouldn't be doing any other thing. Qad encompasses all of this. It's telling you that what is coming after this word, you have to be able to understand that it is the most real of realities, and that you don't want to exist in a place of distinction from it in any which way possible. So that qad is important because it could have been the same sentence without it, but it's addition to the sentence is catching the attention of the people who are both at that time Muslim and people who are not Muslim, in addition to all of us years later. Does that make sense? It's a Meccan surah, right? And we said last time, Umar ibn al-Khattab is the person who's narrating the hadith around the time the revelation came down. It sounded like the buzzing of the bees. So Umar is becoming Muslim at a later part in time in that Meccan period, right? And so there's a lot of persecution, a lot of turmoil. You want to contextualize when this thing is happening and whose attention is Allah trying to grasp. He's trying to grasp everybody's attention. He's telling the people who are early Muslims, he's telling the people who are all converts, he's telling the people who are not Muslims, they're kind of on the fence about what this Islam thing means to them or not. He's telling the people who are of Quraysh, he's telling the people who are of different clans of the Hijaz that are Arab. He's telling the Jewish clans, he's telling people who are Christian. He's telling everybody what I'm about to say is really, really important. قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةِ. You should not be anywhere else. The prayer has started. That's where you need to be. Does it make sense? When it understands this in terms of both emphasis and certitude, it's giving now what we are saying is divine promise. Allah is making a statement of declaration, and He is telling the people that people of Iman, they are the ones that are going to have falah, the believers in this thing. None of these are people who have now the mandates that are coming at the Medineese experience of Islam. In Medina is where you have conversations now around the rules of zakah. You have the pilgrimage. You have the fast of Ramadan. You have things that are coming as things move gradually and progressively. Prohibition of alcohol, the mode in which one dresses, all of these things are coming at a later stage in time. Here, the relationship between this concrete reality is juxtaposing success to the inner state of Iman, and that qad is going to be a very important part of it. There's two types of qad in Arabic grammatically. I have them both written here. One is called the tahqiq. This is a qad that conveys certitude. And then you have tawqid. This is one that conveys emphasis. And they're both giving an implication that there is immediacy or nearness in what it is that the qad is qualifying. Does that make sense? Aflaha, we talked about a little bit last time. Aflaha has the root falaha, and I'm going to share a couple of things with you all, but it talks about success. And what aflaha is a past tense verb in its fourth form. You don't have to know like the forms of the verbs to get something out of the reading of this, but the past tense being utilized here is giving that much more of a definitive understanding that this is something that has already happened. I'm going to put into the chat box a PDF of an Arabic English dictionary. Some of you might already have it. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is pretty slow. Okay. So this Arabic English dictionary is called Hans Ver. Does anybody have a Hans Ver dictionary? Oh, great. If you click on that, the Hanswehr dictionary, what it does is it's going to show you like what root letters alphabetically. It's an Arabic English like dictionary. The page that I shared with you, 726. If you zoom in on it, in the middle of the first page, you'll see it says falaha. Does anybody see that? Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to look at here over the course of the time we're together is called the ilm al-ishtiqaq. This is kind of a science that gives us an understanding of how words are derived from the Arabic language. You're going to have words that normally will have 3 root letters, shared root letters. So the example I like to give is Islam, Muslim, Salam. It has the root salama, and you can see the link that's there. So here, the page that I just sent you, on that first, it has the letters falaha, and it's going to show you what the words are that are commonly derived from those root letters. So you can expound a little bit more on the meaning of the word by understanding what are other words that derive from those same roots. And in a little bit, we'll look at that as well as look at what the basis is of the word Iman itself also. Aflaha as a verb denotes success, but success not in a way that has just kind of worldly achievement attached to it, the way that we might determine. And today we're going to have you guys talk a little bit about what is worldly success versus otherworldly success. But if you look at the dictionary that I shared with you, and you want to get a dictionary like this, right? Learning the Arabic letters might be daunting, but once you learn them, you learn them. And when you learn them, you can look up any word that is in the Quran, and you can deepen in an understanding linguistically by just looking at its root letters and saying, this is what this also means. So if we look at this first part of falaha, does everybody have it? Yeah? Okay. If you look at this first part of falaha, it says to split, to cleave, to plow, to till, to cultivate. Is giving a little bit more insight, thriving, prospering, becoming happy, to have luck or success, to be successful with. Falah, thriving, prosperity, salvation, welfare, success. Filaha, cultivation, tillage, agriculture, farming, husbandry. Falah is the farmer, and you can kind of go through a lot of it, but you see that there's a distinction being made of 2 broader terms here, one of success and then one of farming, agriculturally. Why is this important to understand a Meccan context? In Mecca, what was it that the Prophet ﷺ was doing as a young person? He was a shepherd, right? And then what was he doing? How did he meet his wife, Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha? How did he meet her? He's a trader, merchant. That's what most of these people in Mecca were doing. Rahlat al-Shita, it was safe. They have a travel that is taking them out of Mecca around merchanthood. A lot of the people in Mecca, where these verses are being revealed, they were not farmers, right? And if the Quran is speaking to people of all backgrounds, understanding that there's a deep wisdom in being able to root the sense of success that Allah is instilling within them in this early period of revelation, but attaching it to a form of work that many of them don't necessarily actually engage in directly, meaning they're going to have to sit and really think about too, why is it being described in this way? This root falaha is not just about farming or a farmer, but in the most literal aspect of kind of tilling and engaging the soil, where you have to cleave it and tear it apart in order to uncover what's necessary and then to plant what it is that needs to take place in order for a harvest to grow. If you remember last time, we talked at the end of the class about how the farmer puts in the effort and they don't even know if anything's going to come up at the end of it. You know? I was on a bunch of flights last week, and I have a really bad habit where I don't watch movies. I just see the movie title, I might watch a trailer, and then I just look it up online, and then I just read the script or like it's like, okay, now that's the whole movie, right? I'm not going to ruin the movie for you, but some of you might have seen this movie about a young boy who seeks to instill wind power in his village. It's called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and his father is very much against it. A very kind of sporadic downpour of rain ruins a lot of what it is that they've planted. They're then hit by drought. People start to steal whatever provision is left in people's homes that they have harvested from previous crops. And then this young boy, he uses wind-generated energy to be able to irrigate the land. But for a big chunk of that movie, these farmers don't know if they're going to starve to death. And they've even planted, and then the excessive rain ruins like what they planted, and then they don't have anything left that they can plant, and then the absence of rain keeps them, but they just have to keep trying. And there's scenes where the boy's father, he's just out there with his plow, and he's just plowing and plowing and plowing. He's just exerting effort. It's just happening again and again and again. Success in and of itself is not a one and done thing in our tradition. You have an entire life that has been given to you, and in pursuit of that existence and the descriptions that the Quran gives about what success is, you are in a constant mode of exerting effort. And that agricultural metaphor becomes so critical because there's so many things that these people of Mecca now have to deal with, as Quranically they're being told that that inner part to you is what you're seeking to cultivate, and you're going to have to tear apart a lot of layers to be able to get to where it is that needs real attention to it. One of the questions I'm going to ask you to reflect on between this week and next week is, what kind of weeds exist inside of you? Because everybody's got some. You have to be able to own it and acknowledge it, because what Jannah is, we're taught, not even an atom's worth of arrogance. A mustard seed is entered into Jannah. May Allah give us entrance without any judgment. If I don't take account of it, it doesn't mean that it's not there. And at the same venture, you start to think about what kind of seeds are really being planted. What is it that's being bloomed and harvested? Because it's really easy to look down at oneself, and that's not what reflection is. But contemplation that is rooted in an understanding that sometimes the harder thing for me is not to point out my flaws, but to actually point out my capacity of beauty. Because once I can recognize I have the ability to do something and I still don't do it, that's the definition of selfishness. You know you can actually do it. You know who is the one you can do it for, and you still act contrary to what it is that you know. Aflaha, in relation to qad, is setting a definitive understanding that this success is guaranteed. And that guarantee of success is something to a population that is being beaten down in the early part of Meccan revelation. Isolated, persecuted, subjugated, marginalized, ostracized, boycotted, beaten, abused, even killed. The people of Iman, they are the ones who have success. Aflaha, giving us a sense that you do have to exert effort, you do have to put it in. And one of the things that is part of this definition that falah indicates is that it's a success that is lasting. It is not a success that is temporary. Do you get what I mean? So we could tomorrow have an achievement, and then the next day we could have a failure, right? We could get to a place where I got into one school, but I didn't get into the other school. I did well on an exam, I didn't do well on the next exam. I'm in a place where I had a great day with my kids, and then I fail as a father, God forbid. There's all kinds of things that can kind of rotate achievement in a way where it can be sporadic. That today was a great day in my marriage, tomorrow might not be as good. Aflaha, rooted in falaha, is giving an indication that this is something that has a quality of remaining. It's not something that's temporary, it's something that is always. The mu'minoon have succeeded forever. They are the ones who have success forever. And it's a promise. It's guaranteed. The way Allah says, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا, that indeed with hardship there comes ease. Indeed with hardship there comes ease. It's a divine promise. There is guarantee from the divine that this is always. That understanding of the nuance is important because there's no novelty to it. The way some of you might have felt something when you achieved it in a moment, which you should feel that in. It doesn't way. I'm a 43-year-old man, right? When I was 17 years old and I got an early decision acceptance letter to New York University, it felt really good. I didn't wake up this morning feeling so happy because I had an early decision acceptance letter to NYU when I was 17, right? It doesn't mean that it wasn't real at that time, but it doesn't have that everlasting kind of component to it. Does that make sense? So if it has this everlasting component and it's something that remains, this is saying that real success from a Quranic understanding is nothing other than Jannah. Because everything that is dunyawi is temporary. And if falah has the quality of permanence to it, then it can't be something that exists only in a temporary field. Does that make sense? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, the mu'minoon indeed have succeeded. Now, reminder to these people when they're in this Meccan reality of what it is that they're trying to do through their relationship to this faith is something that isn't just about how is it bringing me goodness in this world. Our tradition does not function off of a prosperity doctrine. That is a Christian theology that at its base level makes a claim theologically that the way Allah shows you his love for you is by giving to you of the world. This is a doctrine that white people use to tell black people why it was that they were slaves and not slave owners, why it was that they didn't own land, they just worked the land. This is why we have and you don't have. God must like us more than you. That's not our tradition. Our tradition has prophets who were taught that they are going to be the most tested of people. They're going to go through difficulties. They're going to go through trials. You can't think about this at a level that is just soundbite or entertainment, but you have to think about it as inherent characteristics of how life just fundamentally functions, and that the only place that you will end up that has no anxiety, no worry, no anguish, no busyness, no gossip, no lying, no cheating, none of that nonsense. It's only Jannah. The world is not supposed to be Jannah. And the striving, the way that farmer strives and tears apart at the land and does whatever they can to get whatever mode of existence they can for their family, even ultimately, if it's just one meal a day, even if it's half a meal a day, they're going to put in the effort as best as possible because they know what it is that it's at the other end of it after all of it's done. And the people who we are going to study characteristics of, Mu'minoon, may Allah make us from amongst them, they live in the world like that. Do you see? And their understanding of success is not reduced to temporary understandings of success. The idea here is that you find that type of continuous exertion, effort, mujahada, in a worldly sense, so that in an otherworldly sense, you have ease. And relating what is temporary to what it is that is eternal, a here versus a hereafter, requires thinking about what are some things that are worldly statements and metrics of success versus what are Quranic understandings of success. Does that make sense? So I'd like for us to do, let's take 4 or 5 minutes, because I've been talking a lot, more people have trickled in. Let's turn to the persons next to us. What are worldly standards of success? And what are Quranic understandings of success? Even if you don't know where or how it's derived from the Quran, you can probably make some assumptions in relation to how these two things can be juxtaposed. And let's just start the conversation there, right? What are worldly metrics and measurements of success? And what are Quranic understandings of success? Let's talk about it next to the persons, with the persons next to us, and then we'll come back and discuss. Go ahead.
Hey guys, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? What are you eating? Bread. That's bread?
No. I just had shawarma.
Why don't you have a headband on today?
She forgot.
Yeah. Are those pigeons on your shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah. You like pigeons?
Yeah.
How's school and everything?
Good.
What are you learning these days?
No, I know what I'm learning.
What's that?
I'm learning about George Washington's painting.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What else?
Yeah, also would about Sunday school we learn about the Prophet Muhammad. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
You're learning about that in school?
Yeah, Sunday school.
Sunday school. Oh, very nice.
So I just did my reading. I just did my English reading ELA and I did my math state test. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're so
Yeah.
strong. Did you pick them up? Oh my gosh. Do you guys want to go sit? I think I'm going to start again. Bye. Welcome, Sam.
I saw your email for the series that we should all bring notebooks. And I was cleaning out my closet with a bunch of like notebooks just from work that
Oh,
are brand
cool.
new. So like,
I can let people know. I'm going to ask them to do something soon. So
okay,
if
perfect. Do you
anyone
want me to
needs
just leave
it.
them up here?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Okay, what are we talking about? What are like some standards of worldly success versus Quranic success? Can one of you guys pass this around? Is it too cold in here? Is it too cold in here? No, it is not too cold in here. Okay, let's see it. Let's see how it goes. I don't really know what that means. Let's see how it goes. But yeah. What do we talk about? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's on. Our group is just talking about for like worldly success, right? We have fame, wealth, general just I guess impact on the world, or like what you're known for. Those are a few things we're talking about.
Okay, great. What else? Worldly stuff versus Quranic stuff. You guys want to say something in the back? Yeah.
So basically winning the lottery.
And buying a house.
Very good. Winning the lottery, buying a house. Yeah. Other thoughts? How much money you have? It's not like hard, right? Yeah, what? Go ahead.
So our discussion actually started focusing a little bit on the scale of how we measure worldly success and how we measure Islamic success. And one of the things that we mentioned was that, okay, worldly success, I'm sure that everybody is aware. Like if you have, I don't know, X amount of money, if you're in a certain position, house, like we were saying, But Islamic success, we mentioned something that sometimes whenever someone or situation actually makes us so upset and actually hurts us a lot, and we decide to take a step back in that moment instead of trying to show the other person how much they actually hurt us, I we thought that that was one metric of actually determining the success.
You take a step back before reacting.
No, take a step back to not react in that moment because when somebody hurts or makes you angry,
Yeah, right.
there is different levels. You can also not get angry from something and not get hurt from something, but there is also another level that you can get hurt or angry from something and just take a step back and not actually react in that moment.
Yeah, this is characteristics of people of taqwa. وَكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ. They like literally swallow their anger. Right? وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. The Ibad al-Rahman, may Allah make us from amongst them. They're the ones who walk on the earth with dignity and grace. And when the ignorant engage them, speak to them, they respond with peace. Do you know? It's a distinction, Quranic success versus worldly success. You want to have a reflective understanding because we become language. And the challenge isn't about us having something in our possession, but to be able to then think out, how does that impact our standing in the hereafter? And understanding cultivation, what it means to put in effort in the pursuit of something. Why do you want a house so badly? And do you think that you're less of a person if you don't? Do you think someone else is less of a person if they don't? Why do you want to be married? Why do you want to have children? Why do you want wealth? Why do you want fame? What is the thing that attaches meaning to this? And at what expense is that being accrued by an individual? And it's not just always about what's happening outward, but how the inward relates to what is taking place outwardly. We're going to look at a few other verses that also have this construct of قَدْ أَفْلَحَ, right? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى, right? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. It's going to talk about how inward kind of development and outward relate. I want us to take a moment individually now, because this is inviting us to see us individually, me see me, in the state of what is actually being harvested from me. Quranically, we can define a lot of different things that serve as the basis of a framework of the self in accordance with Islam as a religion. The Prophet ﷺ echoes this sentiment that the heart is what we intend to have be sovereign over our beings, but anything can be sovereign over you if you let it be. There's people who worship the validation of others. There's people who worship the validation of systems that are built to make you hate yourself. There's people who worship money. They worship all kinds of things. What part of them is then sovereign at that moment? On your own, take out a phone if you don't have something to write with. If you do have something to write with it. Hera bought some extra notebooks. If you want a notebook to write with, feel free to come up and grab one. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and one of them has a pen. I won't tell you which one, so that you don't take that one first, but 5 of them do not, if you'd like to have one. I want to do some of these reflection exercises with you because I know some of you won't do it when you're at home, and I know some of you will feel uncomfortable doing it when you're by yourself. So let's do it in the place that, remember the hadith we looked at last time? There was those 4 benefits to gathering in Allah's house to recite Quran and to read it and learn it together. There we go. Oh, and there's 2 pens if anybody wants a pen, mashallah. Look at that.
Yes, let's go.
Happiest day in his life. So if you go to section 2, or the second page, this is the exercise that is attached to aflaha, a root that relates to farming and growth. The exercise prompt is, if your heart were ard, soil, earth, what is currently growing in it? In which you identify as 2 blocks. One, what are the weeds, harmful traits? Love of dunya. It's not a good thing. Wealth is not a problem in our religion. Be richer than rich, man. You need money in order to give it away. May Allah make us people of generosity. But there's a difference between having a pursuit of wealth versus having a love of wealth. You have to be real with yourself. If you were at Jummah the last time I was here, we talked about the verse, وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ, be with the people of trustworthiness, of sidq. And we talked about Ka'b ibn Malik, radiallahu an, who didn't go to the Battle of Tabuk and admitted that there was no justifiable reason. For 50 days was ostracized until revelation came, accepting his repentance and kind of exonerating him. He went through a lot of difficulty because doing what's right is not always easy, but it's still right. But sidq in our tradition is about not falsifying your condition in front of Allah. You could sit here and live in a world or believe in a religion that tells you to say that you are okay when you are not. That's not our religion. Someone says, how are you doing? There's got to be people in your life that you can say, I'm not doing well, man. I'm really screwing up. And it's even harder if you can get away with it. You know you're not treating people right. We talk about the Mu'minoon, is going to nuance it a little bit more, because believers are not just people who have a relationship to doctrine in Islam. But I want you to first start with this individually. Your heart is soil. It is ard. You are literally made from like the ground. We are made from the dirt of this world, right? So if you were to identify your heart, answer this question: what is currently growing in it? And 2, when you break that down, what are the weeds, the harmful traits? And what are the seeds, the good traits? The word for seed in Arabic is hab. It has the same root as hub, which means love. When you start to engage language, it's so beautiful. If you don't do this, you have to ask yourself why. What is getting in the way from you reflecting on what's going on inside? Does that make sense? Let's take a few minutes right now. Your heart is made of this earth. What is growing in it? What are the weeds? What are the seeds? You do that, and I'm going to mess around with the air conditioning.
messed up. Somebody come. Is it dead? Is it a little mouse or is it a big rat? It's a mouse. Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's do this. You don't have to talk about what you wrote down. You should have written down something. If you didn't write down something, you're not doing right by yourself. You could be disagreeing with me, but I'm telling you, if you don't engage in the exercises with the directions, right? You're taking out a piece of paper, you're opening up your phone, you're writing the question at the top, and then you answer it. You have to be able to confront both what is positive and what is hard in order to then be able to really say, what is it that I'm chasing after, and why is it that I'm chasing after these things? You don't have to go through it alone. And the more deep-rooted things we can figure out how to make connections on. The whole idea is to start to think about what the verse is speaking to me, and how do I start to then extrapolate at a practical level. Let's turn to the persons next to us just for 1-2 minutes. What was it like to engage in that reflective exercise? Like, how does it feel to try to inventory what's taking place? Can I actually envision and illustrate myself as a piece of fertile land? And if I'm looking and seeing that something can be produced from me, like I have the actual ability. My wife and I went on a walk today where we live. There's like a lot of greenery and other things. And we just looked at different flowers and different trees and things that were so beautiful that were coming out. And what this is telling us is that you were built in such a way that beauty, like the beauty of those flowers, can come forth from you. But if you don't take out the stuff that is creating the mess, it's going to still be there and prevent the beauty, not because beauty is incapable. You're just not addressing the things that are creating the blockades. Do you see? So let's just turn to the persons next to us. What did it feel like to just reflect on it? And if you didn't do it, which is fine, talk about why you didn't do it. What was it that got in the way that made you think you don't need to do it? It's hard to do. So that you have supportive environment in which you can start to explore, and then we can get to where it is that we want to be. May Allah make us people of Jannah. I don't want anything less for me. I want anything less for you, right? Why would we want anything less for one another? Do you see what I mean? Let's talk about it. What was it like to engage in the exercise? And then we'll come back and move forward. Go ahead. Okay. I forgot what time Maghrib is here. What time is Maghrib here? 7:40? 7:47 is when Maghrib starts? Oof. How was it? How was it reflecting in this way? Was it easy? Was it tough? What does the thumbs up mean? It was good? Why was it good? Yeah, you can do this.
It was reflective, and it was just a nice way to take stock of like, we go to work, we go to school, every day is like super busy, but like what are we actually planting and what are we watering? And so we want to make sure that that garden actually is like what we want it to look like, instead of, to your point, like maybe you're watering weeds instead of actually watering the plants. So yeah.
Yeah, and language again is important. Sometimes it's not a maybe, you know, right? What are you watering when you gossip? What are you watering? Why? What are you watering when you lie? What are you watering when you break a promise? What are you watering when you yell at a loved one, you don't do right by somebody? Do you get what I mean? But why? And how? How will it make sense that anybody would think that's a key to Jannah? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The people of Iman, they know what they're working for. You get stuck in the dunya, you're stuck in the dunya. What was it like for others reflecting on this? We did it for 3 minutes, right? 4 minutes. Doesn't take a lot of time. Yeah.
Assalamualaikum. I'm very self-aware, so I could list all the things for weeds and seeds, but writing it out was very different because I looked at it when you said, okay, we're gonna come back, and I was like, oh, I haven't really thought about it. And then in our discussion, I mentioned, yeah, it's kind of a journaling because you have so many thoughts rushing through your head, you don't have to actually write them out and reflect on them. So that was a very different type of exercise for me. It was good, but I'm thinking a lot more about them.
Good. Do it more. That's the point. Look at that. Khalid knows what he's talking about. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought? Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Other thoughts? Yeah.
I think to your point as well, it was really helpful to actually write out everything and just be able to look at it, because when you asked us to write out the weeds and seeds, I think I initially felt a little bit of resistance because I think when I was like thinking about the weeds, I was already starting to feel this sense of like self-blame or like self-criticism. But then as I was writing them down, I feel like I was able to look at it a lot more objectively and also realize that I am not these things. Like these are either things I'm experiencing or things I'm like maybe consuming when it comes to like content, for example, or like just people I'm around or thoughts that are repeating in my head, but none of those things are me and they're all changeable, if that makes sense. So like I think it was just easy to look at things from a more objective way and just see, okay, what do I want to keep? What do I not want to keep? So yeah, I appreciate it.
Amazing. And that's going to be the whole point of today's conversation. None of the next however many times we meet is going to make a difference if you're not willing to actually embrace capacity to change. The believer's state is such that it changes multiple times a day, not in a schizophrenic mode or compartmentalizing, I'm one way in a certain space or the other, but you're open to malleability. And if you are the same always, something is not happening because there's no movement. Even a step backwards has gain to it at times because it lets you see what's ahead of you from a different vantage point. And that capacity for change is going to be an intrinsic quality of a person of Iman. May Allah make us people of Iman. You're not scared to be different or to change or to acknowledge, I do this thing. And the thing that I do doesn't always have to be bad. It can actually also be good. And when I can recognize I have the ability to be good, when you are cultivating weeds, nobody shares weeds with other people. If you're like harvesting fruit, like you don't eat all the fruit, you know, other people eat the fruit from the trees. Do you see? Allowing for that to be a reflective exercise. And the falah is about that metaphor being something that has an actual firm, tangible mode of reflection to it. You don't have to be the one that also put the weeds there. My family and I moved into a new home. Alhamdulillah, may Allah make a place of sakina for us. It's really great. May Allah make all of your homes places of tranquility. You can walk in the houses. I don't know if I should say what I was about to say. Like, for example, I'm trying to think how to say this without it being weird. Like, can you imagine what it's like for Zohran Mamdani? The guy who used his toilet before him was Eric Adams, right? Right? Like the house he lives in was lived in before by someone. We all know who that person was. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Do you know? So understanding, like he sleeps in a bedroom that this guy like slept in at one point. Do you know? Things happen in that house. Decisions were made that were like terrible policies that destroy people's lives. Barakah is impacted by these things. Do you see? May Allah grant him ease. So we move into a house that has a front lawn and a backyard and whatever. The weeds were there before we got there. We could sit back and say, I didn't put the weeds in there. Or I could say, they're there, I'm going to decide what I do with them or not. Somebody put pain in your heart, somebody put anger in your heart, somebody put stress in your heart. You got to first say that it's there before you can do something about it. Just like you start to think about who puts beauty, who puts hope, how do you cultivate? And the cultivation is important. A seed is important. It's not something you just throw randomly and then you hope one day mango trees are going to suddenly grow on 6th Avenue. You got to put in the effort if you want to grow the thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Inshallah, if Allah blesses us to get access to the roof of this building one day, and we can have like a rooftop garden, and then you can see it's like a caretaker of a garden or of a plant, what really goes into it. Go buy a plant that's hard to take care of, and then ask yourself if you take care of your heart the same way as you take care of that plant, right? That's what the farmer does. They take care of it. You got to take care of that inner soil. Does that make sense? Al-Mu'minoon are a category of people qualified by a characteristic. So all of you are seated right now, right? We could say you are the sitters. Does that make sense? You are not a population that only sits always, though, right? So it's temporary. Al-Mu'minoon is not the same as Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. They're two different modes of expression. This group is being described as a population that is just known because they believe. I'm going to put now another page from the dictionary. And if you take a look at it, in the second column of page 28, there's a lot of different words that share the same root, right? What was this called? The science of what in Arabic? Ilmul. Does anybody remember what I said? Ishtiqaq. Yeah, it's in the notes as well. You're looking at the etymology, how the words are derived. So when you're looking here at the roots, I just put it in the WhatsApp group. Amana, to be faithful, reliable, trustworthy. Amina, to be safe, to feel safe. Aman, right, to reassure, to set one's mind at rest, to ensure, safeguard, guarantee, confirm, corroborate, to ensure, goes through a lot of it. Aman, peace, security, protection, clemency, safeguarding, right? There's a lot that goes into this. Amin, reliable, trustworthy, loyal, faithful, upright, honest, safe, secure, the authorized representative or agent, trustee, guarantor. And you spend words, time, like if you go into the next page, there's more derivatives that are there as well. The mu'minoon, the word in and of itself, in the notes you could see I wrote down like what it is grammatically. It's a masculine plural. Here it's being used as a subject of the sentence. And it's a population that really embodies Iman. And here, they are the group that are going to be defined by the qualities that we're going to look at in these subsequent verses. May Allah make us from amongst them. When you look at this idea of the mu'min, there's a sense of safety, security, protection, trust, and faith all together. The Prophet comes into Medina, the first thing he says, Afshu salam, spread peace. At'imu ta'am, like feed the hungry, right? When Allah is described, that Lord of this house in Surah Al-Qur'an, alladhi at'amahum min ju' wa amanahum min khawf. There's this idea of security, protection, and these two things go hand in hand, consumption and safety. Because if somebody can control your sense of wellness and they can control like how you eat, they got you. What can you do? This is why it's tough when you live in a world that threatens to fire you or dox you or get rid of you by expressing parts of what makes you you. It's purposeful to create a chilling effect. This is why you have to build strong and build communally and understand where and how collaborations are effective so that power in a of itself does not become something we desire to have proximity towards simply, but we have the ability to build our own power, do you know? And you make sacrifices for certain things. But a mu'min is one then who has an inner sense of peace and security with Allah, but they also provide external safety to others, and they uphold trust in all relationships. You see the three prongs to the definition. That's not just about, I know the 6 articles of faith. I believe in Allah and the last day and angels and messengers and books and divine decree, the good and bad of it. Anybody can memorize a list. How do you live Iman? And somebody can be a Muslim because they practice a dimension of Islam, the religion, that is just practice, that is outwards, which is also called Islam. Iman, as a theology, is faith. It's different from creed, which is aqidah. You can memorize creed. It doesn't mean you believe in it or live by it. And the mu'min is one who has these 3 qualities. You have an inner sense of security with Allah. Allah is my provider. How do you know? How do you determine who your God is and where you draw your sense of security and reliance from? Look at the decisions and choices you make. 2, which is really important, that a mu'min also provides safety to somebody else. How can you be a believer and you create anxiety in the people around you? Not like racist people who see you and they have irrational fear, but you think you are a good Muslim and you find joy in making people feel insecure. If you walk into your house and your spouse, your child, your elders, whoever, they don't feel safe around you. Where is Iman if I can't speak around you because I can't trust that you won't go and say something about me behind my back? Right? A mu'min is who? This is definition from the hadith. Al-Muslimu man salama an-nas min lisanihi wa yadayhi. That the Muslim is the one from whom people are protected from their tongues and their hands. It's not difficult to understand, but to embody it requires us to think about religion beyond just what I memorized when I was in Sunday school, and I start to actualize it. What does Iman in the heart then yield outwardly? Somebody's got to be safe, and if it's not there or adding up, it's telling me about the weeds inside. Divine proximity shapes character. And then you uphold a trust and amana in all relationships. You're going to show up because that's what believers do. May Allah make us from the strongest of believers. You do not want to be content with having a reputation of being unreliable. You can have downtime. You need to rest. People should make excuses for one another. That's not what I'm saying. But at times, things are going to also build up. And Iman can be evidenced through certain things. If I'll go into my house and my children are afraid when I'm in the house, am I a strong believer in God? What God do I believe in? You know? And then the qualifications of where we provide are going to be varied. But communally, this community, Allah is blessed with a lot of different things, man. You got to wake up to it as a reality because you're sitting here and you're a part of it. Numbers, diversity, wealth, resources, credentials, skills. How are we going to build safety for the people around us? Do you know? We move into this building. People who lived at the top of the building at one point said to me, you got to call the police on the homeless people that are outside on the street. What are they even doing to you? I don't feel comfortable by them. Weeds, man. Get rid of the weeds. What's creating discomfort? We didn't come here to displace people who were already here before we came here. The weeds are going to be vision modifiers. The mu'min is the one whose presence brings safety and security. That's you. You want to aspire towards that. You uphold trust. I want to take you back to the reflection prompt. If you go to page 3 of the session 2 reflection prompts, in section 4, where it says, what does it mean to be a believer? Or actually, before that, let's go to the one under weeds and seeds first. Al-Mu'minoon, the believer, from the root safety, trust, and security. Iman shows up in 3 places. It shows up in your heart, the qalb. It shows up on your tongue, your words. And it shows up in your limb, your body, your actions, the jawarih. These are 3 things, qalb, lisan, jawarih. These are indicators, but also holders of Iman. May Allah make us the strongest of believers. So I want you to take just a minute, and I want you to reflect on this prompt that's at the top of page number 2, under the if your heart were soil. It says under self-check, do people feel safe from your tongue, your actions, and your presence? And to nuance it, that says who feels directly safe by it, not who is neutral or indifferent. And 2, who is unsafe from it? And why? Do people feel safe from your tongue, your actions, your presence? Who? Who does not get to be safe from those things? And then who is guaranteed safety? Why? What's the difference? Okay, and you continue with that in that whole packet between now and the next time. But if you scroll down to section 4 on that same packet, which is on page number 3, in section 4, it says, what does it mean to be a believer? And I have that hadith written in Arabic that I just shared with you. Al-Muslimu man saliman. This one has a different variation. Al-Muslimu man salima al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadayhi. That the Muslim is the one from whom Muslims are protected from their tongue and their hands. But the personal audit exercise that's underneath it. Today is Monday, right? It's Monday, yeah. So 48 hours ago was Saturday. 48 arbitrary number, but let's just leave it at the last two. And if you think about these three prompts that are written here, think about the last 48 hours in understanding what we said about the mu'min. They are right with Allah, they are right with others, and they are honoring trusts. They provide safety and protection. The last 48 hours, did I say anything harmful or hurtful? Did I act in a way that hurt or harmed somebody? Did I withhold kindness when I could have shown it? Are these things important? Yeah, man, like they're very important. Prophet ﷺ is asked about a person who prays like a lot and gives a lot in charity beyond like minimals. In the hadith, they say, but her neighbors are harmed by her tongue. La khayra fiha, hiya min ahli nar. There's no good in her. She is from the people of fire. Allah protect us from it. They ask about somebody who just does the basics, prays what is written to be prayed, gives what she's supposed to, but doesn't harm anyone with her tongue. Hiya min ahli jannah. She's from the people of paradise. It's not a gendered conversation. We can look at hadith that talk about men in the same way. But if you don't take a pause to reflect, it doesn't mean accountability still isn't there. The mu'min is the one that people are protected and safe from their presence. It brings that sense of safety. Did you do anything to hurt or harm somebody in the last couple of days? Did you act in a way that was hurtful to someone, whether they know it or not? Did you withhold kindness when you had the ability to show it? Let's think about it just for the next 2 minutes, and then we'll move forward. قد أفلح المؤمنون. Okay. So we're thinking about some of these things and we start to bring them together. The mu'min has this ongoing embodiment of those things that we just discussed And it requires us to understand that Iman in and of itself is not a static construct, but it is something that is actually lived. It is something that needs to be renewed and replenished, and it's something that can be demonstrated in some capacity. The whole idea to be from amongst the mu'minoon is that you are that in every space you inhabit. I don't go into a place of work and say, I left my Iman at the door, and this is why it's okay for me to cheat my clients. When you think about stories that we're taught that are lived experience, Khulafa would take out a candle that was from the state and use it when they did work on behalf of the Muslims. And when they did their own personal work, they take out a personal candle so as to not violate the trust. Why would somebody do that? It's not that big a deal, you know? Because what's it cost? Falah, Jannah. Why would I want to take a chance with that? Do you see? And it being front and center doesn't mean that it creates a sense of paranoia, but it creates a philosophy on life that is rooted in something that I believe in. Other things you want to reflect on is, how do you know what you believe in? Not what you claim belief in, but how do you know? And there's a multidimensional approach to Iman in our tradition that roots itself in different variables that you can just use for assessment. One, you look at like your words, your qawl. Two, you look at your amal, your actions. And three, you look at your hal, your state, your condition and being. And do these align with people that are people of Iman? And when we look at these characteristics over the course of these next sessions, right? الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ, we're going to look at next week. We're going to talk about people who in their prayer have khushu'. May Allah make us from amongst them. But not just at a level that you turn on a video or watch a reel and then it's just a way to pass the time. But to really think about the development of this as a characteristic. The people who avoid that which is futile, the people who practice tazkiyah, the people who do the things that these verses are going to do. In order for it to be effective, it doesn't mean it's an overnight switch, but it has to be rooted in a state of character being something that can actually be nurtured and developed. Something that is formulated consciously or unconsciously, but actually has the ability to be changed. It goes back to what we were saying in the beginning. If you don't think you need change, or that you, even worse, are beyond change, then it's not going to work, man. It's just not going to work. If I'm stuck in a place where my language just regurgitates this idea, this is just who I am, this is just who I am, this is just who I am, or I impose that on others, that's just who he is, that's just who she is, that's just what they're like. It's not what our tradition tells us. Everybody has ability to change. Not everybody actually takes advantage of their ability to change. The way character develops in and of itself has a baseline formula to it. You get to a place where actions become repeated again and again and again until they become habituated. And then the habituated actions, they start to form identity. If you wake up to pray Fajr every day, you're a person of Fajr. May Allah accept it. That's what you do. You gotta do an act of generosity before you're known as being someone generous. How is the Prophet known as Al-Amin? And his being trustworthy is not just about being someone who does not lie. He does not lie, but people also feel safe around him. Right? This is what we just said, a mu'min is. This is what Iman inculcates, that you have that relationship with the divine, and it trickles down to how you relate to other people. They feel protected by you. They don't feel harmed by you. And in order for that to happen, when there's room to then make a decision or a choice, there is a prevailing ethic that then informs the decision. The Prophet ﷺ chooses to be trustworthy every time he has the option to choose otherwise. The action in and of itself becomes habituated practice again and again and again until it becomes an identity variable. As-sadiq al-amin radina radina. Rejoice, rejoice, the trustworthy one is here. You become a product of habituated practice. This is why we have hadith that tell us things. Allah loves those actions that even if they are small, they're consistent because you are a product of what you do. Inaction in our tradition is also categorically doing something, right? I was just at a convening where one of the organizers had to leave early, make dua for her. Her granddaughter was hospitalized with severe seizures. A few days before, I was in Jamaica and I had to get on a flight. It was the fourth time in my life I'm out of the country. One of my parents went to the hospital. My mother went in on Tuesday last week. I came back, sat in the hospital for a few days, and then I flew to California because she told me to go. Otherwise, I wasn't trying to go. Mom said, you gotta go. I gotta go. And she got discharged, alhamdulillah. And the day she got discharged, this woman's grandbaby went into the hospital. And I had to speak that night to a room of people who were very powerful. Affluence, influence, all kinds of stuff. They're trying to build something. May Allah give them tawfiq in it. And I said, we ate with this woman, sat with her, spoke with her, built with her, traveled with her. All of us know she's on a plane going back with pain in her heart. Whose responsibility is it to check in on her to see if she's okay? And I said to them all, it's all of your responsibility. Every single one of you is supposed to be checking in on her. And if you don't, you have to ask yourself why. At this point, you want to address the weeds and the seeds, not because it's a clever construct, but because I don't want to go to hell for some stupid reason. But I want to also cultivate the practices and behaviors of people of Jannah. If the Prophet ﷺ was sent as Rahmatan lil Alameen, then isn't Rahmah the way to go? So until you start greeting those that you know and those that you don't know, you're going to only greet those that you know. Until you start living by food for one is enough for two and food for two is enough for four, you're going to feed your stomach even when you're no longer hungry. Until you understand that true patience comes at the first sign of calamity. And if Allah wanted you to bark like a dog, He would have made you a dog, but He made you a human. The actions repeated become habits, and then that's what people will know you as. Your character in and of itself is formulated through the choices you're putting in, and if you don't have presence in the deeds that you are introducing, it doesn't mean they're still not getting done. When you get to a place where you start to think about the variables that influence these things, suhbah is extremely important. Don't treat it as something you've heard, but then you do nothing with it. What is knowledge that you know that you don't act upon other than ignorance in its worst form? Hikmah, wisdom, is about acting on what you know. Ignorance is I know that it's not good for me, but I still just don't do it. Or I know that it's good for me, but I'm still just not doing it. Why? It could be a struggle. It could be hard. You know, waking up for Fajr is good, and it could be hard. May Allah make it easy. But you know that some of the people you hang out with are not good people, man. You know it. You might even know that you're the person that brings people to a place that they're trying to get better than. Address it in a prism of accountability. That character gets influenced by environment. You spend an hour in here once a week, twice a week, a few times a week. Think about the difference in who you are when you were here every day in Ramadan versus how many days you're not here in the rest of the year. Environment shapes your character. The people you're around shapes your character. A second bucket that's going to shape character is going to be self-talk. The internal dialogue you have with yourself that can justify anything. I could sit here and I could say, man, that guy is like this, and he did all of this, and they did that. And it's just about why everybody else is always wrong and nothing's going on inside of me. The Prophet ﷺ says to his companions, are you the master of your tongue? Are you the master of your hand? Do you control it or does it control you? You get to a place where you bring rest and composure and you start to think about how you fashion and make malleable a character that's Quranic. It's not going to make a difference to only talk about Quran if you don't attach an intention to it firmly that says, I want to live by these qualities because falah is something that I want for myself as well as for the people that I love. So that internal dialogue is going to be important around the implementation of it. That doesn't say that there's something wrong with me if I'm not there, but all of us are a work in progress. If I've already told myself, though, this is who I am and I will never change, shaitan's got you, man. And then exposure and consistency. You just kind of keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. Fast, a regular fast. Read a verse of Quran, better than reading 0 verses. And it doesn't even mean that it's like worse than reading 10. You are you. You are not the person next to you. Why are you comparing yourself to somebody who doesn't even exist? You're just trying to get done what you know is good for the cultivation of your heart. Exerted effort, the way the farmer tills the soil as best as they can, because if they don't put in the effort, nobody eats. There's 2 words you want to get yourself familiar with. If you were in the Sirah classes that we were doing, then inshallah we'll resume soon. There's a part where the Prophet's a young boy, and then before he goes on Al-Isra wal-Miraj, they remove things from his heart, right? Takhliya, removal. If you speak Urdu, Hindi, there's cognates to the Arabic, right? The word khali means something is empty, right? Takhliya is about making your inner self empty of certain things. Get rid of the weeds. Get rid of the false attachments. Who cares? Somebody knows you or does not know you. Attachment to things that are temporary are not going to be what it is that makes you good. You're already good. And why you have to know that achievement is what can say, I'm proud of you, but should never be what it is that makes me love you. And Allah loves you whether you achieve or not. Quranic understandings of success are not rooted in transactional modes of love. You gotta love yourself enough to be able to say, hey, if my heart is filled with something, I gotta empty out some of it. Step number 1 from a Quranic framework, you have to make your inner self khali of something. You empty out the stuff. And then 2, you cultivate the virtue. So you have takhliya and then you have tahliya. You are adorning with things that are good. You empty this out, And then it's got room, your heart, to fill it up with something that's better. So you put in patience and forbearance and sincerity. And how do you do that? You don't think about what we're talking about separately. You go back to the stuff before. Suhbah. One of the ways you can increase around patience is be around people who are patient. If you're around people who are agitated all the time, you're going to be agitated all the time. If you're around people who are just staring at their phones all the time, why wouldn't you be then staring at your phone all the time? Right? You take on the characteristics of people around you. Al-maru ala dini khalili, that a person is on the deen of their friend. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِلْ. So be mindful of the ones that you befriend. Be around people who are honest. You'll start to take on their characteristic of honesty. Then the implementation of it with a consistency becomes important. The vehicle through which a virtue increases is the virtue itself. You want to be more generous, then you just be generous. You want to be more compassionate, then you be compassionate. You want to be more honest, then you be honest. And you allow for yourself to engage in that removal of things and then the adornment of things. You can look at the outcome and assess then the steps prior to have a real understanding of where you are. And it's not about compartmentalizing, but environments yield different things. The way I talk to you all is not the way I talk to my mother, it's not the way I talk to her grandkids, my children. Ethics become situational, but environments will also bring about certain demeanors. This is why you could see somebody and they are waxing poetics of beauty in front of a gathering, and then they go home and they're terrible to their family. Iman has me understand Allah sees me everywhere. Even when I'm in a private setting, which is different from secrecy, because public is this, private is when I'm back home, and secret is just me and God and nobody else. So I get to a place where I can see what's the state of my heart right now in pursuit of a willingness to have character formation. One, if I am not tending to my heart, is going to produce things like envy, jealousy, malice, heedlessness, ghafla, ego. May Allah protect us from this. And if I'm cultivating my heart, is going to create things like sincerity, humility, sabr, love. Why would you want the first one? And the internal dialogue is important. You have to want it for yourself. You can't just think it's going to fall in your lap. You don't wake up and think an angel is going to bring you a bucket of gold. You get up and you go put some effort in to making things happen at the end of the day, right? Do the same thing for your heart. In the notes, I gave a bunch of different things that you could look at that can offer ways to start to be open to yielding transformation. Bucket number one, you have a muraqabah. You're looking over your heart, so your heart looks over you. There's a vigilance that's there. You engage in moments of just stillness and composure. So you start to live with an actual consciousness that Allah sees and Allah knows. This is what ihsan is. And ta'budullaha ka'annaka tarah, that I worship Allah as if I can see him, because I know although I cannot see him, that he sees me. Consistency over intensity. Bucket number two, that you're in a place where you honor what is prophetic counsel at the end of the day, that Allah loves those actions that are small but consistent. Third, your suhbah, the environment, is going to be really, really important. Your heart is going to be influenced by what you put in its proximity. So you want to choose to be in places of growth purposefully, as well as being around people who don't live in a state of ghafla, heedlessness. They're just walking and like floating around the way leaves float by the wind. Everything is pushing it. No, man. People of istiqamah, they're firm, they're consistent, They know what they're moving towards at the end of the day. 4, you want to interrupt negative patterns. So you start to identify things that are taking place within you that are motivated by things that catalyze unconscious emotional habits. Thoughts exist in different ways, and there's negative cognitive biases that we become privy to that also parallel our spiritual tradition, where you can have Rabbani and Malakani thoughts, like divinely inspired and angelic thoughts. You can have Nafsani thoughts that are coming from your lower self. You can have Shaitani thoughts, things that are just not good. So, a Rabbani Malakani thought is going to say, you serve food and eat last. You give up your seat. Help the person with a suitcase walking up the stairs on the train station. There's no shortage of things you could do in New York for people to help them. Do you know? A Nafsani thought from the ego is going to tell you somebody else should be the one to volunteer. You don't need to pray your sunnahs. Don't make dua after you pray. None of it is obligatory. The Shaitani thought is going to be the thought that says, just don't pray at all. Do you see? You can learn about yourself through yourself, but as was said before, you want to not react always, you want to reflect. You take a breath and you pause and you say, is this really the best thing to do? Does this make any sense what I'm about to do right now, or is it just going to make things worse? Dua is an important tool for transformation. And you turn to Allah and you just ask him, Ya Allah, I don't want these weeds in my heart anymore. I really don't like that I get angry at this person so easily. Give me the strength to carry the pain that that person I love so much is carrying. Help me heal from my own pain so that I might be there for them in their time of need. Ya Allah, I don't want to be somebody who cares so much what people think about them. I don't want to be in love with money or think that my goodness is only attached to how much wealth that I have. You turn to the one who is in control of all things, including your heart. And then you say, make me somebody who's not afraid to change. Why are you going to come and sit, this many of you, to hear about these verses of this book that talk about qualities and characteristics of a particular group of people that are given Jannah, other than you want to go to Jannah, and then you want to embody their characteristics? And for most of us, at least one, if not more, of these qualities are going to be things we're going to have to put in some work to doing with consistency, right? So all of it's going to require us understanding the embrace of change and not just quoting verses of Quran, but seeing them as true. Allah does not change the condition of a people who do not change it for themselves. So you got to be willing to take it and then go with an air of gradualism that does not start with self-deprecation, but moves forward with an air of vulnerability. I'm just trying to get done what I have the ability to get done. And if the Prophet ﷺ was the living embodiment of these verses, and we know that the output of him was somebody who smiled at people that he met, greeted those he knew and didn't know, was willing to give everyone his full attention, making them feel as if they were the center of all things, then these attributes enabling divine proximity more, why would I not want to then start? And for a lot of us, we get stuck in cycles because we don't know where to begin. You can begin here. I want you to sit with it, just this idea. Am I willing to embrace change, or am I resistant to it? And what do I need to do between now and the next time when we sit down and we talk about the second verse of these 11 verses, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ, those who have khushu'ah in their prayer, may Allah make us from amongst them. It's going to be about some things that might have to change, because you can't have khushu'ah in your prayer if you don't pray, man. Right? You know what I mean? You can't kid yourself. Like, if you're just not doing it, it's not going to yield what can only be yielded once you're getting it done. Do you know? Do you see? So sit with that idea of change being a part of the practice of the believer. And inshallah, we'll go into verse number 2 for next week. Let's do this just before we wrap up and pray Maghrib. You can turn to the persons next to you. What are you taking away from tonight's conversation? What is it bringing up? Let's do that for a few minutes, and then we will come back and make salah. But go ahead. Thanks, man. Is that okay? How's that going? Is it Maghrib time? It is, right? Did Maghrib just come in? Only right now? Okay. Okay. Let's just close with dua. I know people are here to pray Maghrib. And we'll pick up from here on Wednesday. So this week we'll have the next session in this class will be this Wednesday at 6 p.m. inshallah, in person and online. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I got home at 2 o'clock in the morning. I think I'm in like 10 different time zones right now. I'm okay. I'm glad you're sitting next to me. Then. Thanks for keeping me company. I'm sorry. Let's make dua. اللهم آمين. اللهم لك الحمد كما ينبغي لوجهك وعظيم سلطانك. لك الحمد حمدا طاهرا طيبا مباركا فيه إلى يوم الدين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين.